very much once again for coming to this session. Today is June the 19th, and this is our session that we deliver on back translation. This is the title of the session today. Let's do it very quickly as an introduction. Back translation. It is simply that you translate something from English into Arabic and then you try to translate from Arabic into English. How does it happen? And why do we use this kind of strategy? This is going to be the talk of today. As I said, this meeting now is being recorded, and it lasts only for 40 minutes. If you have any question or you need some clarification, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask a question immediately. I will not be able to see the chat all the time. And most importantly, within 40 minutes, I'm afraid the Zoom session will shut automatically. This is by the Zoom plan that we're subscribed to, which is the basic plan. In other words, we do not hold lots of Zoom meetings. For that reason, I'm not subscribed to it anymore. Anyway, back translation. Let me just take you through back translation and what it means to us. The principle is that we can consider these sentences, and they are very simple indeed, by the way. Even the professional translator, when translating these sentences, and even if he is happy and confident that he is translating them in the best possible way, what happens is that when we read something written by the English people, by the English native speakers, what happens is that we are frustrated with our performance, and we feel that they are really light years ahead of us, and that we are unable to imitate them or to do something that's similar or very close, or any kind of close thing that we can do to what they write. For that reason, this exercise is important. Let me take you immediately to the process, how I got these sentences. Well, first of all, I browsed the internet for any topic, and this was happiness, and there was another one about the law. And what happens is that I found a page talking about happiness. So, step one is to find an interesting topic. Do not look for encyclopedic topics. Do not look for something which is sophisticated or too much academic. What we're looking for is something that's very easy to understand and very appealing. This is what we want in translation, professional translation. We want to write in a way that is very appealing to the reader. And this is just an article about happiness. Step number two, it is to read certain sentences or to read the article and to allow ourselves to be astonished and surprised with the use of English. Look at this one, for example, an agreed upon framework. This is very simple. This is very, very simple, but even a professional translator may not have it in his mind or the background in his mind. And you can see it's very simple. Let's look at this one. In the last few decades. This is also a very simple expression. And you can see other ones, other expressions that are very useful. What we do is to translate them. This is the third step. It is to translate interesting phrases, interesting expressions into Arabic. The result was this one, and I put it on the forums in case you would like to translate them. And I hope that somebody will translate them. Nobody did. Anyway, I just said, could you please translate the sentences? Nobody translated them. Maybe the instructions were not clear. Anyway, what we do after this, after translating it from English into Arabic, step number 4. So step number 1 is to browse the internet and try to find an interesting topic. Step number 2, it is to allow ourselves to be surprised with the phrases, and by the phrases and expressions that are very beautiful in that topic that we have read. Step number 3 is to choose certain expressions and translate them into Arabic. Now we have step number 4 and step number 5 and step number 6. Let's see them. Step number 4, we translate them from English into Arabic. Now, step number 5, we immediately, this is very important by the way, we immediately try to read the Arabic. And in our minds, small minds, we try to translate them from Arabic into English. We try to translate them from Arabic into English by trying to remember how they looked like in the English original text. This is step number 4. Step number 5 is to shut the whole application that you have and to wait for about 2 or 3 days. Then go back to the text, and this is the final step, and try to translate it. Try to translate the text that you have written here. Then finally, last but not least, go to the English text and make a comparison, see what kind of development you have made. Let me just give you a demonstration about what I mean of all of this. So I followed all of these steps, and now I have the Arabic expressions here, and let me try to remember how these were translated. I will translate them, however, in two ways. The first one is the first way, which is a straightforward way that I may think all the time about it, and then I will translate it in a back translation technique. The first one, we ask ourselves sometimes whether there is any meaning for happiness in our lives. Let me repeat. We ask ourselves sometimes whether there is any meaning for happiness in our lives. Back translation, if I now go back to the original text, it will be something like this. We ask ourselves sometimes if there is a point in happiness in our life. If there is a point. This is what I'm trying to remember. The second one, happiness has a very important role in our lives, and it has a high impact on the ways that we live. This is what I think about. If we go back to the back translation, we find it's something like happiness has a pretty important role. Look at the word pretty is very simple, and pretty important is very simple, but it's very hard for us to think in this way. In our lives, that has a great impact in the way we live. In our lives and the way we live. In this article, this is the third sentence. Let's get to the depth of details in order to know what happiness is and to see why it is important. But if you go to back translation, we find something like in this article, let us dive into the details in order to see to know something about happiness and how to be happy. The third one, we can translate it as, now we have understood, we have made a good understanding or a better understanding of what happiness is. If you make back translation, it becomes like this. Now, after we have got grasp on the concept of happiness, I think it was like this. I will check it now. Next, let us first of all explore some definitions of happiness as mentioned in the dictionaries, in order for us to agree on the ensuing points of discussion. This is a very good translation, but in back translation, let's see the difference. It could be something like this. Let us first of all review some lexical definitions of happiness in order to be on the same page. Let's see another one. If you ever face a difficult problem and you couldn't solve, then there are certain steps that we would like to advise you to follow. The first of those steps is to define the nature of this problem, then break it down into pieces. But again, if we go to back translation, we find out that it is advisable to follow certain steps. And here, to break it down into small components. عليك أن تنظر إلى المشكلة. Here we have, you have to look at the problem or into the problem, both of them are correct, from different perspectives. But if we go to back translation, it becomes, you have to approach the problem from different perspectives. This one, the law does not come from vacuum. Neither does it work in vacuum. It is an entity not independent from human experience. If you go to back translation, you can find something along the lines of the law does not come or operate in vacuum, does not come from or operate in vacuum, and is not independent from human experience. I think this is how it looked like in the back translation. You see, this is the exercise that I'm doing, and then I may go to make some kind of verification in order to see whether I am on the right track or not. The last one, when the law is applied in our society, it touches upon all aspects of our lives. As far as I remember, it is something like, in back translation, it is if it operates in when it operates in our society, the law governs, touches all facets of our lives. I don't remember the rest. So you see, at least we can have some kind of points that are there in back translation. Let's see the article about happiness, the first few lines, and see what interesting things we can find. This is the verification process at the moment. So let's see this one. Look, what is the point of it all? What's the point? What's the point of life? What's the point of life? ما هي أهمية الحياة? And look here, happiness does have a pretty important role in our lives, and it can have a huge impact on the way we live our lives. This is what I missed in translation, what I did not remember in the back translation. And you see also other expressions like researchers have yet to pin down the definition or an agreed upon framework for happiness. Let's see. This article will dive into the science of happiness, what it actually is and why it matters. Now you see, here we have better translation that I gave, and let me remind you of the Arabic. This one, the nature of happiness and how we can understand its importance. But look how it is translated here in back translation, what happiness actually is and why it matters. This makes a difference in your style in translation. Before you read with fine, you may, not important. First, let's take a look at the definition once again. You remember what I said here? I said, let's first of all review some definitions. This is what I said. But here we have a very beautiful expression and very simple one. Let's take a look at the definition of happiness. So we are all on the same page. So I did remember. So we are all on the same page. Let's see. Well, I think that's all. The other ones are for problem solving and the law. Frankly speaking, I just forgot where the pages were. For that reason, I'm unable to bring them up. So that's all about back translation. Once again, I want to make a summary. We have several steps. I think we counted 6, if I'm not mistaken. The first one is to browse the internet and find an interesting topic. And I chose this one about happiness, not academic, not in management, not anything. It could be in management, by the way, but choose something that appeals to the reader. Read your article and try to find expressions, and as I said in my introduction, allow yourself to be surprised by the beauty of the expressions and the phrases. This is step number 2. It is to read and appreciate. Step number 3. Choose some of those expressions and then translate them into Arabic. Once you put them in Arabic in this way, you can change them, you can change the word order in Arabic, you can do anything that you want. And then step number, is it 4 or 5? Anyway, the next step is to translate them immediately from Arabic into English by trying to remember the original text. Then the next step is to shut down the computer and leave everything for about 3 or 4 days to give yourself, for what neuroscientists say, spacing. afterwards. Bring these sentences and expressions and put it to the test. Put yourself to the test. Sit like an exam and do the translation immediately. Try to remember as much as possible what you read in the back translation, and then grade your writing, your translation by going back to the original text and trying to make comparisons and to see what you have benefited from that. So that's all about this presentation for today. There's nothing more that I can add. Basically, because we have only 40 minutes, let me just remind you, please, that once the Zoom session expires, it means that it expires. This is the Zoom basic plan, and I'm not subscribed to any other plan. I'm leaving now the floor for any questions. If you would like to ask questions, I'm not sure if there is the raise hand or the chat or whatsoever. I'm not sure. Anyway, if you would like to ask any question, just please do that, please. Do you have any question? Do we have any question? Is it possible? Do you have the feature here or the option to raise hand or something like this? Because I cannot see it. There should be some kind of an option that gives you the ability to raise your hand. If you raise your hand, I know that you want to ask a question. Hamido wants to ask a question. Yeah, Hamido, yes, he says there is this option. If you have any question, please just raise your hand and ask it. Do you have any questions about back translation? Do you think that it's useful? Do you think that it's not useful? What's your thought about it? And if you think that it is good, what is going to be your next step? While you are still thinking about it, I would like just to tell you that today we have published our forums as an Android application. You can download it from there. In order to download the application, just go to the forums and you can see this one. You just click Play Store app. Just click this one and you will be forwarded to the website. If you have any question, please just raise your hand, take the mic and talk. If you feel that it's not useful and you feel that it's not interesting and you feel that it's not something that we can benefit from, then do not say anything, do not raise your hand and not talk. So I understand that it's not useful. Yes, Hamidu, please. Or Ahmed min Wisp, Ahmed Mu'anis, please. Yes, Ahmed Mu'anis. Could you please read your question? Yes.
Yes, good evening. Good evening.
Could you go ahead, please? Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Yes, I have questions about back translation. The translator could focus on structure or meaning when he translates.
So your question is, in back translation, do we learn something about a new structure, new technique, or new words or meanings? This is your question.
Yes.
The answer is very simple. What we learn in back translation, what we call language usage. Language usage means everything. It could be a preposition. It could be a collocation. It could be a structure. For example, in a sentence, you can see that the English speakers use the passive voice for certain things, and you can learn it. So learn whatever you can do. It could be expressions, idioms, etc. This is in a brief the answer to your question. Unless you have another question, Ahmed, I can go to Hamido and then I can come back to you if you have any question. Thank you very much, Ahmed. Hamido, please, the floor is yours.
First, I think it's very useful, but actually, I never practiced the right or the correct way, because I always translate from English into Arabic when I read when I find an interesting article, but I never try to return to the text and translate it back to English after 3 or 4 days. So I lost. I always lose a lot of expressions. My question is, I think you said that we have to translate from English into Arabic and immediately translate it back and then return to the text after 3 or 4 days and to put ourselves to the test. Am I right? I just want to make sure.
Correct.
Yes, thank you so much. That's it.
Yes, first of all, you have to do it immediately And after this exercise, you have to give yourself a space of about 3 or 4 days and do the text again. This is what I said. But basically, Habibu, remember, you said that you're translating articles from English into Arabic. I know this is your business. This is our business. Forget about it. You will learn nothing from this, from the work that you get at the moment. You can learn only when you do the following. These are the steps. First of all, go to internet and find something interesting, something appealing. This is what we want. Because they are carefully written in English. They even recruit people and pay thousands of dollars just to make this writing. 2. Allow yourself to be surprised, allow yourself to be astonished by the writing of people. If you are not astonished and there is no surprise in reading, don't care about it. You may read something from Wikipedia and find it very interesting, but even the expressions are interesting, but you don't like them. Just leave them away. Choosing the article is very important. And then choose the expressions, translate them into Arabic, then immediately translate them from Arabic into English, then give yourself a space of about 2 or 3 or 4 days and try to remember them once again. Thank you very much, Hamido. Any other question from the audience? It's good maybe to ask this question. Have you ever tried this before? Have you ever tried this back translation before? In my opinion, I think it is just something like a teacher. Some teacher is teaching you in this way. This teacher is going to be the text. I'm keeping on talking unless somebody would just raise their hands or take the mic and talk. So I've been doing this exercise for a long time, for the past 20 years, I think I've been doing that. And every time I learn something new, I hope. And what do you think about it? So, what's your opinion? Do you think that you're going to do that or not? And I'm very happy, by the way, for having this group of good people here. Thank you very much for coming. And thank you, Ahmed Moanis, for the announcement that you made on your groups and social media. And apologies for not being able yesterday to come. There was some kind of emergency that I had to do, and all of these problems that happen. Anyway, we're here at the end, and it's recorded for those people who couldn't come. Because as I promised, if we have more than 10 members, we simply record everything. The chat system shows me that some people want to ask questions. Ahmed, to everyone, Asma says something. Can you please, Asma, use the microphone? And Ahmed also, would you like to please to use the microphone, because I feel tired of talking all the time. And there is Asma, how can we choose the suitable subject to translate it? Yes, I am trained on this at the very beginning of my career, and results were interesting. Asma, could you please explain what you mean by your question? Could you please take the mic and talk? Just unmute yourself and talk immediately. You can see the unmute button. Apparently you have a problem maybe in the microphone if you are not unmuting yourself, Asma. Do you have any problem with the microphone, Asma? Let me ask the question in a different way. Do you feel that you don't want to talk to the microphone? Okay, until we hear something from Asma, we're waiting for her to answer her question. Ahmed, could you please tell us about your experience with you said that, yes, I was trained at the very beginning of my career and the results were interesting. Please tell us something about that. Please take the mic, Ahmed, and talk. I think this is Ahmed.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sure, we can hear you.
Thank you, Dr. Muhammad. Yes, at the very beginning, the fourth year of my study at the university, I trained on something like that. I used to take some sentences from some interesting articles and translate it into Arabic and then back into English. And after two or 3 days, I translated again into English. But I used to write down these sentences in notes in order to check and revise it back over and over again. So yes, this has helped me a lot in building a lot of vocabulary and expressions.
In your opinion, Ahmed, how can we choose the subject that we work on in back translation? I already said something about happiness here and gave you some clues, but in your experience, how did you choose the topic and what was the
Actually,
criterion for that?
this depends on two criteria for me. The first one is the domain in which I will translate. For example, if I want to translate medical article, for example, I start to read about similar articles which were written in English. The second criteria is something which interesting to me in general. For example, if I wanted to translate anything in general, not in a specific domain, I choose something which is interesting to me.
So I understand from you that sometimes you feel that you want to work in a specific domain like medicine, and you feel it as a necessity. For that reason, you go
Yes.
to the medical topics and try to translate them using back translation from your experience. This is what you did. Now, at other times, you're in a leisure time, you don't have anything to do, and you want just to make fun or to make a good time reading something useful. So you go in general domain. You do not focus on anything specific, and you translate it.
Yes,
Translate it.
that's
Thank you
right.
very much, Ahmed. Thank you, Ahmed. That was a very useful experience, of course. Asma, would you like to talk to the microphone, or do you think that there is a problem with you? Anyway, your question, I think, it's about the subject that you're talking about. I'm not sure if you're talking about if you mean the article and not subject, because subject we have management, we have, for example, media, we have, for example, medicine. This is what I mean, what I understand from the word subject. For that reason, I'm confused, and I wanted you just to explain it further to me. Basically, if this is a subject, then Ahmed has answered this question. It is, first of all, you try to see either it is a matter of necessity, it is necessary for you to translate for a client something in medical translation. For that reason, sorry, you try to do this back translation in the subject of medicine. However, in general domains, maybe it's just a kind of fun or a hobby or whatsoever. So I'm not sure if I answered your question. So you're talking about the topics, and please, Asma, thank you very much. There's the topics. Just avoid using colloquial words like this. Anyway, it's good that you say the good topic. It's up to you. And the answer to your question is that you have to browse the internet and try to find topics. Check the first one and answer this question. Does it appeal to you? Are there any expressions that surprise you? Are there any expressions that you feel very beautiful? This is how we choose the topics, and that's all. Any topic in the world that can be of interest to you. Start with simple words like happiness, like anger, emotion, quotations, heroes, anything like that. Do not use, for example, something technology. Do not say the keyword medicine or disease or whatsoever. You could still find something there. But anyway, we're talking about topics that are very general, something that every reader would like to read. This is the answer, maybe, to your question. But I hope I answered your question. Now we have about 8 minutes until the Zoom kicks us out, and we thank Zoom for giving us the opportunity, of course, to have this meeting. Zoom has been doing very well throughout the coronavirus pandemic, and we're very thankful. So we have only about a few minutes until we just go away. Do you have any questions that you'd like to ask? And Yasmin, we prefer that you speak to the mic because it's clear to us. When we read, sometimes we misunderstand what you say. Is this technique essential step in translation? Should we apply it with all text or particular types of text, or is only for advanced translators? Once again, I cannot understand your question correctly. You're talking about many issues here, about essential step. I don't know what you mean by essential step. What do you really mean by essential step in translation? What does that mean? The second one is that, is it particular types of text? As I answered this question, but let me just answer it again. The type of text that you can use has only one condition. It has to be appealing to all readers, regardless of their specializations. And of course, you have to find something that's surprising, something that has to be astonishing and beautiful. Now, advanced translators, well,
Salam alaikum.
yes,
I'm asking
walaikum
about back
salam.
translation. Is it an essential step whenever we translate any text, or is it used only with particular types of text?
Well, I see your point about, is it an essential technique in translation? Yes. Well, in fact, it's up to you, of course. And most importantly, you have to say the following. Now, are you a student or a translator? Are you a translator, beginning translator, or an advanced translator? These are the questions. If you are a student, sometimes while you are sitting alone, you may want to make use of your time. Back translation is going to be very good for you. It's not an essential step. I'm not talking about it an essential step in the sense that you must do that. But this is something what people say, as Ahmed said, when they try to learn translation, they do it in the usual learning process. It's not essential, but it's something that's useful. For experienced and advanced translators, I can say it is a must. Why it is a must? Because language evolves all the time. And if we do not do such an exercise, we will not be able to see how people are using English in the English world. So basically, I think, this is my own opinion, it is that advanced translators, for them, back translation technique as a learning process is a must. Because an expert translator always learns and every day learns. For students, it's just something optional that they have to learn. I don't think that it's obligatory. Ahmed, however, says, Ahmed Magradnil said that yes, he did that for specific purposes as a student, and he does that also for specific purposes as a translator. I hope I answered your question. Yes, ma'am. And Nesma, to everyone, I think the translation market is very poor. That makes me frustrated. How can we create opportunities? Well, Nesma, unfortunately, this question is not related to back translation. We have only about 2 or 3 minutes. So, Nesma, can you post this question somewhere in the forums, in the correct way? I will be very interested in hearing the voices of other people also about this. The market is very poor. There are no opportunities. This is a problem. I agree with you. This is a problem. And why don't we have another webinar maybe? Next time, we will have a webinar on this issue, which is how to create opportunities. This is a very good thing, Nesma, and I congratulate you for this. However, this time it's just for back translation. We have unlimited time. No, we have limited time, in fact, not unlimited time. Yes. So, is there anything else before we are kicked out from the room? If it just shuts down, don't think that I have kicked you out. I'll be kicked out the first of you. Yes. We're looking for another active session if possible. Of course, it's possible. To interpret work, no, it's not possible at the moment, interpreting work, but we can do that, of course. We might just talk about it there. Could you please just stick to the back translation, please? Back translation. Is there anything about back translation? If you would like to talk about anything else, I would love to hear your voices. Really, I really appreciate that. But there is the forums, and there is the Google app that we uploaded to Google Store on Android phones, and I think you can click here, you can find it on your mobile. Please do ask questions there, and we will be able to make these tools. So, what other questions that you have? Umama, and thank you very much for your participation. Umama said, raise your hand, please take the microphone, Umama, and quickly because the time.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Muhammad, for this session. I'd like to ask about the benefits of back translation for researchers. I wonder if you have applied back translation as a method to any piece of paper, or are you just talking about back translation, the benefits of back translation for translators only?
Well, I'm just talking about it as a technique. It's something that we can do in order to improve ourselves. This is the basic level. In order to make it a researcher, of course, must see the literature about back translation. I'm not aware of that. Do people talk about back translation? Not to the best of my knowledge, they talk about back translation in a totally different sense. They talk about something totally different from what we're talking about. So basically, you review literature and you see what people talk about back translation. You take a model if you find a model, and then you choose whether your study is going to be qualitative or quantitative. You apply the methodology, and you make the experiment, and then you get the results. Basically, to tell the truth, in research, I don't know anything about it. Back translation, to the best of my knowledge, is used in a totally different sense. I'm not sure.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Romana. Is there anything else that you would like to ask? And thank you very much for all of you to attend. Well, I think Ahmed Muanis, you did a very good job in marketing for this Zoom. Ahmed is one of the most brilliant and active people I've met in my life. Thank you very much, Ahmed. Keep it up. Sorry.
Thank you, Doctor.
Most welcome. I have to thank you for all your efforts, Ahmed. You did a good job. And most welcome. So, Umama, would you like to ask another question? Please go ahead.
No, thank you. I will lower my hand.
No problem. Okay. Is there any person who'd like to ask any question? So we really need such sessions regularly with pleasure. This is what I can say. I promise. For years, I haven't got this number of people. And good people, you're just asking questions. It's not about just quantity. People are asking, are communicating. And what do you think? Well, I think we have only 1 minute until we are kicked out from the session. So let's say something. Write down in the chat anything you want. It's only 1 minute, and I think, well, for the time being, I think we spent more than 40 minutes and nothing happens. Do you think there is a miracle?
I've read a message 10 minutes ago that the host upgraded the meeting to unlimited time.
I swear. I didn't do anything like this.
But I've read this.
I haven't read anything because the upgrade means payment, and I haven't paid anything to Zoom. Well, if that's unlimited.
Sometimes Zoom is crazy.
Well, no, Zoom is very good, by the way. Very good people, and they really did a very wonderful job in providing a platform for people to talk and choose. I'm now entering the account, as you can see, and let's see what kind of plan I'm there. Well, what is my plan? Plan and pricing. Where is the plan? I don't know. When this one. Back translation Arabic into English, my personal meeting, so strange. Well, if it's unlimited, well, I'm sure that I haven't at all done anything. I haven't subscribed.
Maybe Zoom gave it to you as a gift, Dr. Muhammad.
Maybe because I said some good words about them. I heard me, so they said, well, yes, you see, this is upgrade to annual. I'm not doing any kind of upgrade. Where is my profile? Where is the basic? You see the basic? This is the basic plan, which means nothing. Anyway, this is very good news. So, in this case, I think we can, if you don't mind, we can just spend about 15 minutes. Why don't we just try to ask questions and answer them? Because this is a very good time for us to meet. We don't have this opportunity all the time. I'm always available, but it's very hard to find good people like you in the sessions. So, let's say that we have several questions. The first question for discussion, if you don't mind, that we can continue with, is what, if I am not mistaken, Nisma said something about the market, or not Nisma, maybe Yasmin. Not Yasmin, maybe somebody else. Who was talking about? Nesma was talking about opportunities. Let us face it. Translation has a problem in the market, and we are unable to reach the market. We are not able to make a living out of translation. Let's face it. This is what Nesma is saying, and because of that, Nesma is saying that we are very frustrated as translators. We graduate from the university and we prepare ourselves. We study back translation. We study all of these things, and then where should the money come from? Where should work come from? We have a problem. So this is the problem. Nesma, would you like to tell us more about the problem so that we can try to make a discussion about a solution or a possible solution? And would you like us to talk about something else? It's just about 15 minutes, maybe no more, and then we will just leave. Yes, I think we have this question. Nesma, are you with us? Yes. Nesma, would you like to give us more details about this problem? You say that you feel frustrated. You feel that you're not happy. Yes. Okay. First of all, would you like us to continue talking about this issue until the end of this session within 15 minutes? If yes, raise your hand. If no, don't raise your hand. There's only one person, Omar. We have Ahmed. So we have 2 people, 3 people. Okay, I think 3 is more than enough. And Nesma, 4. Myself is 5. So let's talk about it. Okay, Asma says yes, and the clients go to the cheapest. Nesma, would you like to... you cannot take the mic, Nesma, I think. Can you take the mic?
Maybe she wants to know how to get clients.
Well, I'm not sure, because she's still talking about clients who want the cheapest price and they do not care about the quality. I understand your feeling, and somehow I understand why you made this conclusion, but still we need to know something more about it. What makes you think that they want only low quality just as long as it's cheap? Anyway, Omama, would you like to take the lead and tell us something about this issue?
I don't know how old Nesma is. Maybe I think she's young, and I just I'd like to tell her to be patient, and she will get clients if she markets herself well, and if she works on herself well, she will get respectable clients.
So what about the cheapest price? A clients is what I understand now from the problem. The problem is as follows, as I understand it. Clients want cheaper prices, do not want to pay much money.
Yes. Sometimes
yes.
Sometimes I meet with such clients. 2 weeks ago, a colleague of mine told me to proofread a piece of research, and he told me a very low price, and I refused. I told him no, I can't do this. So it's a kind of a request and approval or refusal.
Well, I understand this point, that maybe a client told you that he wants some kind of work and there is cheaper price. Maybe your colleague is telling you about this job and you refuse. But you haven't answered the question of Nisma. Maybe you have more than one client. You have several clients and you don't care. But maybe another translator may think, I don't have any job at all in the very beginning. Umama, let's go first of all with Omar. Listen to Omar and I'll come back to you or to any person who raises a hand. Omar, you're raising your hand, so please take the mic and give us your thoughts about it. Omar, you're raising your hand, which means that you want to talk. Unmute yourself if you want to talk, and please take the floor. Okay, Dr. Muhammad Isam, Dr. Isam, yes. His translation professor at UST, and he says that he has a problem, and unfortunately, he has a problem. Dr. Isam, we were talking about back translation as a technique. And by back translation, we mean that the English people at the moment in the internet, they are simply recruiting copywriters, brilliant writers, in writing their own articles on internet. And they are using very beautiful English. So my thought was that we can make benefit of back translation in improving our skills and efficiencies. We translate from English into Arabic, hide the English text, read the Arabic, try to translate it, and remember the English text. A few days later, we do the same in order to make sure whether we memorize them or not. So the first question for you, if you can help us answer this question, is how do you think this is applicable in the academic environment at the university level? This is the first question. The second question is what our friend Nisma has asked. Nisma says she's correct in what she says. We're frustrated that we do not have access to the market of translation. And she correctly says, that one of the problems is that many clients come to you and they want to get the service very cheap, even if it's bad quality. So it makes us jobless, it makes us aggrieved. We do not have access to the market. And the question to you, maybe, Professor, if you would like to make an intervention or to talk about this, is what kind of things we can do at the university level before we graduate in order to have access to the market on the one hand, and after we graduate, how can we do that? So I give you the floor if you like to talk. I understand that you have a problem with the microphone, which is we're sorry for that. And I really am not a technician and I don't know how to fix this problem. If it's my end, please just somebody tell me how. But could you please just give us any kind of suggestions or indications about this? And if you feel that you are unable to do that at the moment, could you please send me a recorded message with your voice telling me about your thoughts so that we can include it in the video of this meeting. We will try to make it like an annex to the video, if you don't mind. So I'm just waiting for you to give me a feedback either in the chat or the voice or whatsoever. So until we get an answer from Dr. Isam, I would like just to come back to you. So Nisma is saying that she doesn't have a problem. She has a problem with the voice. I'm sorry for this. I understand that this is a technical problem or issue. So as you can see, it is preventing us from making good communication among ourselves to make things rapid, fast. Yes. Basically, we're talking about the market. Yes, there are people who want cheap prices. But what we're talking about is that we do not have access at all to the market in the first place. And even when we try to make this access, people say that we have to work for them for cheap prices. And this raises the question. This is the question. I am a beginner. Do I accept to work for cheap prices at the very beginning? Hopefully one day I'm going to be professional and I can raise the bar. Or do you think I have to reject all work which is of low prices? So this is another question. Please, the floor is yours. Anyone who would like to talk, just unmute yourself and talk immediately. Maybe put something in the chat if you like. And if you think that you will need more time to think, remember that we have on the forums, I'm trying just to see what we have here. I think we have, in the forums, we have a special thread, special place in order to discuss these issues. So, concerning the market, I think you can go somewhere. Yes, I think you can say ask translators and other linguists. You can click here and just a new topic and suggest something, and we're going to interact with you. And remember that the forums are now available on Android mobile phones. You just click this one, Play Store app, and you get your link. Download it. This is the beautiful subscription of Zoom. We don't need it at the moment, although we're very thankful to Zoom for all their efforts during the COVID pandemic. Now, who would like to talk? Please take the floor immediately. And take the floor immediately, please, and talk. Unmute yourself. Yes, this man is asking another good question. This question is for all of you. From my presentation that we made and from discussions that you raised, from the questions that we asked, this is the question for all of us. How can we benefit from back translation in the market? How can we make the best use of back translation in the market? And she says, it seems that I focus too much on the market. Okay, we can approach translation from a market perspective. In other words, your question still needs some kind of refinement. Is it how to use back translation to enter the market or to sustain your presence in the market? Abir, go ahead. What's your question, Abir? Or your intervention, if you'd like to say something. And you can just take the microphone immediately, unmute yourself. And most welcome, of course, Abir. So anybody who would like to answer this question that I have asked, or maybe Nisma has asked, you're focused in the market, yes, because we translate not because we love translation. We love it, yes, but we work in order to get money. We have bills at the end of the month that we have to pay. This is very important, I think, isn't it? How to let clients know that we exist? And there is another question. All of us are Arabs. Do clients have specific requirements from a geographical perspective? Do they choose specific countries to recruit translators from? I doubt it, because TranslatorsCafe.com, for example, offers opportunity for all translators and linguists, and apparently that clients never ask about the geographical location unless they want some interpreting or specific localization jobs. So, do you have any other question or something that you want to raise for discussion? Abir, would you like to say something? First of all, we welcome you, Abir. I think you have just joined, as you said, and unfortunately have missed the whole presentation. But anyway, it's recorded. You can see it later on. In the meantime, we'd like to say anything about translation market, translation professionalization, translation learning, teaching, etc. Uthman, would you like to say something, because you're...
Yeah.
Yes, please. Go ahead.
Good evening, Sir Dr. Muhammad. Really, I joined just before 10 minutes. I'd like to ask about doing researches in this field, especially in machine translation. Can this topic be beneficial in this field? I mean, the back translation.
You're talking about basically back translation. So this is a very important question. Uthman is raising, in fact, a question of two branches. The first one is about back translation. The second one is about machine translation. So why don't we combine them together? Uthman is saying by saying machine translation, back translation. In other words, back translation through the machine. And I think you're talking about MemoQ, Trados, and other CAT tools. Maybe you're talking about automatic translation like Google Translates, etc. In order to
translation.
Automatic translation, so maybe Google
Yeah.
Translation, you mean. Anyway, it's the same. It's the same. Google Translation is based on memories or TMX. It's the same thing. In fact, in order to make research on this field, yes, you can make that. But first of all, you have to go back to the literature and find what they say about back translation and what they say about machine translation from the perspective of improving the professionalization of translators. And then after you make the in-depth analysis, you start to find what's called in academic world, it's called the gap. You find what's the problem. There's something missing there. You take this is which is missing and put it in mind. You want to explore it. If you want to explore it, you have to see then, is it going to be qualitative or quantitative, and what kind of methodology and model you're going to apply. And then you apply a research on certain experimental groups, for example, or whatsoever, or samples, etc. And then you get the results. Certainly, back translation is going to be very important. For the time being, I cannot be so certain to say that there is a gap in back translation. It's something that you have to read more in the literature. So far, I haven't read anything about back translation, but certainly there would be something in research. It's worth the attempt anyway. There is a question about, yes, thank you, Athman, and welcome for any kind of intervention. If you'd like to add something more, just unmute yourself, interrupt me, and talk. There's no problem. I think back translation helps the translator. Asma just put an S with the help to build his vocabulary. Do not say his, her. This is something that the academic people do not like. Vocabulary, not vocab, and develop the style of her translation, which helps in your work. So basically, Asma, what we're talking about is that back translation helps translator to improve vocabulary, developing style. Yes, I agree with you, and this goes hand in hand with what Ahmed Anas says about the structure, about the semantics of the sentence that you can learn. Both of them are there. Yes. Nesma agrees with Asma, and I agree with both of you, and I agree with Ahmed as well. But remember, it's not only the words, it's not only the style, it's also the structure, as Ahmed Mu'anis said. Yes. Who would like now to take the microphone and talk about this, or about anything else? Yes, Abdul Rahman.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I have three things to talk about, and I will be very quick in addressing these 3 points.
No, please,
The
very
first
slow.
one is
Take your time, please.
no. I mean, I'm afraid that the time will end because I mean this is the first point, which is about the Zoom
Yes.
app, the free plan subscription, which is now more than an hour, and I wish or I hope that it's not a mistake that it keeps like this because I mean it's great. I used it during this pandemic, and I mean it has only 40 minutes, but now it's more than 1 hour, and that's good. So this is the first point. The second point is about back translation. I mean, I have attended the session from the very beginning. I listened to your take on it, and this is the first time I hear the concept. I majored in literature, not in translation. But what you said is, something of a great importance. And I found that there is some kind of, misunderstanding. Some of the participants started to ask about it. Is it a technique of translation, or is it a technique that helps us to be better translators? And the latest participant asked about machine translation and back translation. So there is some kind of misconception, and I don't know, if I'm wrong, just you correct me. What I think is that back translation is a technique that makes us better translators because we look at text in the target language in English, and we see how simple the structures are used. I mean, compared to the translation that we make ourselves. And it's not a technique of translation. It doesn't mean that if you have a text to translate, you have to refer back to, a similar text in the net so that you see the language. That will be, I think, a waste of time. So we have to use it as a technique that helps us acquire the style, the kind of phrases that, as you have shown us, very simple. And we know them all, but they don't click in our mind when we come to translate from Arabic into English. The third point that I'd like to address is to thank you and the forum for having sessions like this, and I hope that it will be, more in the near future. And the publicity is very important. Try to make it reach everybody, because now it's according to the new plan for the free, it's up to 100 participants, and the time is unlimited. Let's say it will be 1 hour, and 1 hour is more than enough. Thank you very much again for your session, and I'm very eager to see what's coming in the near future from you. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much, Abdulrahman, for the points. As far as the Zoom platform is concerned, when I logged into this session, I really had the thought that it's only 40 minutes. At least this is what Zoom told me from the very beginning. I clicked the button of start. And surprisingly, which is a good surprise, and we are thankful for Zoom for what they have, for what they are doing, that they made it unlimited apparently. I don't know why, but anyway, maybe because it's the COVID-19 issue, etc. So yes, it's going to be very beautiful for us to talk for 1 hour or more even. And I would like to add to what you say. It's not only important to talk about translation. It is very important for us to talk to each other, just to talk, to express our thoughts, our voices. I may have some thought about back translation, but some other people may think about it differently, and they have very beautiful thoughts about it. So it's very important to share these thoughts. The second point is about back translation, whether it's a technique or not. Frankly and honestly, very frankly and honestly, I don't know anything about the literature. I don't know about research, whether they talk about it or not. To the best of my knowledge, yes, they talk about it in a different sense, maybe. Maybe they talk about it in this way, I'm not sure. But this is something that my father used to do when he used to be a professor of English and translation literature somewhere in some Arab universities. He used to apply this method in the early 1970s, I think. And I heard other people doing it maybe, so we do it as practice, as a hobby. As you said, it's yes for the vocabulary, yes for the beautiful expressions. In other words, what you, Asma and Nisma say, and Ahmed, of course, they say it's the style, the syntax, things that we have never used before. But in order to make it more understood, I use the following expression. In order to do back translation, read a text in English that surprises you. It has something surprising, something astonishing in terms of the language used there. So this is the second one. As far as the forums are concerned, we have the forums. They are open for any kind of discussion. Unfortunately, in the social media, in the Facebook, I'm not talking about Facebook as Facebook, of course, but let's say the use of Facebook, there's something wrong with it. In Facebook profiles or Twitter profiles or whatsoever, there is one person, which is I, you, or he, or she, or etc., who talks and talks and talks. And we post our news every day, and people comment. This stereotype is very dangerous for us in exchange of knowledge. In the exchange of knowledge, there is never one person who talks and all people who would comment, either they like or dislike whatsoever. What we have in the forums, this is what we need to make in the forum, is to exchange views. Somebody may, yes, trigger a thread or something, or opens a topic whatsoever, but there must be a kind of exchange and communication between the members. It's futile for me all the time just to answer all questions and to solve problems of all people. It's not a one-man show, it's everybody. As you can see, your discussions have made this session very rich, and we have been talking for more than 1 hour so far, and we have lots and lots and lots of good discussions. So thank you for this, and hopefully, yes, we will have more sessions in the future. If we have people interested really in the sessions, we will of course hold sessions, even if this is a paid version of Zoom, we don't mind. In the past years we had a very bad experience. Hopefully this year things are going to change. Thank you very much. Nisma is saying now, is it important to be specialist in only one field to practice back translation in light of the market shortage? The translator may need some kind of expansion in many fields, and this may decrease the excellence. Well, I really hope, Nisma, I could understand your question. Probably you're talking about specialization of versus generalization. This is an issue that has been discussed in research in depth. There is a lot of controversy about the issue, whether a translator must be specialist or generalist or both of them. So let's keep this, let's postpone this kind of discussion for further sessions, and I hope to answer this question one day. But of course we will focus on this. I'll try to write something about it maybe in the future, and remember that you asked me this question so that we can see how to answer it. Ahmed, please just interrupt me and talk. I keep on talking and talking and talking without stopping. So just interrupt me and talk. The floor is yours, Ahmed.
Okay, Dr. Muhammad, just before we leave, to add something. In translation, especially for translation students and novice translators, we noticed that a lot of translators and novice students face a real problem in translation. So the back translation I could will facilitate the way of learning and teaching for students. I think that translation teachers, if you use this method in teaching of translation, students can be aware of translation and how grasp the information and master the strategies and skills to learning translation, and learn the first steps how to be a translator. That's it.
Yes, thank you, Ahmed. Before I answer your question, I think I have to stop the recording for a while. Yes. So, in order to put things in context, let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, or friends, brothers and sisters, Ahmed is an academic person. He's working at the university, he's teaching, he has the master's degree, and he's preparing for the PhD as well. We wish him all the best. So what he's talking is, unsurprisingly, related to the teaching of translators in the very beginning days. And he says that back translation might be very useful. Ahmed, I'm giving you the floor now just to talk about this issue. Please feel free to talk about anything you want. To make more explanation about that, yes, please.
Okay, just I said before that translation, back translation is very important for students to learn the basic strategies to master the translation skills. I think that's back translation a simple way of enabling students to notice the gap in wholly fig words by doing back translation. Of course, translating a text into one language and translating back to the original. It's important to mention that back translation is never used as a standalone tool. I think it's a part of a complicated translation procedure that varies depending on the research field and the purpose of translation project. I think as a first learning method, translation teachers should use this way in teaching translation. As I said, that's a lot of novice translators and beginners has a scare around translation, how who will be start, especially when you talk about from English into Arabic. We face a lot of translators and students. He said that I can't translate from English to Arabic, and I asked them why, because that's I just translate from Arabic into English. But the opposite way is difficult to them, because as you said, that don't have that background about navigate and websites and how to gather information, how to read the English text and how to master the translation skills, and how will be translate from English to from Arabic to English. This is the point.
Well, I'll try to summarize what you said, which is very excellent points that you have raised. And basically, there are keywords, key terms that Ahmed has just mentioned from his perspective as a teacher. There is the word scarce. People are very frightened when learning translation from Arabic into English because of the gap that they have. And Ahmed has asked many students and many novice translators why they fear translation from Arabic into English, or maybe the opposite direction, and he got the answers, which means Ahmed is making what we call need assessment. He is assessing the needs of a student. And Ahmed is telling us in one way or another, and please correct me if I am wrong, Ahmed is telling me that after he assesses the needs of the students, he finds out that there must be ways. Those ways have to take us into the goal. And in management, which is very important in people's lives, in management, this is called a strategy. A strategy is the path, is the road that leads us to the goal. This is the definition of the word strategy. What is the goal? According to Ahmed, one of the goals that we have to achieve is what he calls the skills. And in order to do that, Ahmed once again is making the need assessment from a holistic point of view, not from a specific point of view. For that reason, he can see the picture, and he does see that back translation has a piece in the puzzle. He sees that. At the same time, Ahmed is warning us that back translation is just one little piece in a plethora of other skills, other techniques that the teacher should use in order to make his translators overcome the fear that they have, in order for them to excel, to be at least confident, not in translation, but at least in learning translation, improving themselves in offsetting the gap that they are facing. So I think this is a summary of what Ahmed says. Unless I missed any point, you can of course just correct me if I made any mistake in making this summary. Now, whether it is Ahmed or the other person, would you like to say something? Just please unmute yourself and talk.
No, just we hopefully that Dr. Isam, if you can join us, he chatting with me. That's the problem with the audio. He could add anything he wants.
I don't know if there is any problem on my side, because I cannot see any reason that he is not joining us. Do you think that he doesn't have the password maybe for this session? It is 1235. Could you please check with him?
Maybe I will send the password.
Maybe it's the password. It's 1235.
Okay.
But you know, Ahmed, anyway, because this is recorded, I can hopefully give it to you on YouTube so that you can share it with Dr. Isam, and I will be very happy just to hear his views about it. Whenever we hear more views, it's going to be very useful for us.
Okay, we hope that, Doctor. Thank you for that.
So we have some people who... Yes.
Yes, I think a lot of translators from WhatsApp group ask me to record this meeting. I think because there's a same session for another lecture, so
I
that
see.
we can.
Yeah. Okay. I see, that's the point. Yes. Anyway, the rule is always that whenever we have more than 10 attendees to the session, we record it. The reason I'm making this kind of condition, because in the past when I said I record it, nobody comes. So there is nothing to record. For that is I say, 10 attendees, I record it. No attendees, there is no session at all, as in the past. So let us just check on you. So, Abir, and عودة Nasser. I hope that I am reading your name correctly. Malika is also a very active member. She wrote an article, I think, in our magazine. Plus Ahmed, of course, he wrote a very wonderful article about training in Sana'a. That was a very beautiful one. Malika wrote a very beautiful article as well. So, do you have anything to say? Would you like to give your opinion about something? Be the expert. Put on the hat of the expert. Wissam, Musleh, and Zuhur. Also, I haven't heard your voice. There is Nada as well. Unless you have anything to say, I think I have to close this session and see what we can do in the next sessions. Would you like to have any closing remarks or something that you would like to say at the end? Especially the friends and colleagues that haven't talked so far.
Yes, Doctor. We just left a few words to hold another meeting in the coming soon.
So let's decide on the topic. Maybe we have to decide on it somewhere in the forums. And I think I will just see what kind of things that we can do. Well, first of all, I have to go back to this session here to this one. You see the archive. And I have to put the link to the YouTube. Then give you some time or for reflection in order to put your opinion inside it, and then we can start with another one. Do you have anything to say, all of you? Now, I'm very happy to see you here. It seems to be that we have taken more than 1 hour so far, which is very useful. If I knew this, I think I would have simply added more examples about back translation. But anyway, Omama, thank you very much. Thank you too. Can you please, all of us, what do you think about writing correct English? Even the chat is very important. Just we write the usual English words, of course. The usual English. Well, thank you very much. Thank you, Omama. I'm very happy that you are here. Thank you, Athman. Thank you, Asma. Thank you, Hamida. Thank you, all participants. Thank you, Ahmed, of course, Asma and Isma, all of you. Can I also ask you please to fix the microphone issue if you can for next time, because it's very crucial to hear your voice and that we exchange. And if somebody wants to say something in the mic and he feels that he doesn't want his voice to appear in the recording, well, I think we can simply just erase the whole recording. There's no problem. So thank you very much and have a good night. We'll see you next time. But remember to go to the forums, because I'm going to upload the YouTube recording. Just watch the recording again. If you feel that you can have some reflections or some thoughts, some ideas, just please write them down there. And afterwards, I think we will be able to conclude another session about another issue and another topic. Thank you very much and good night. Bye bye all.
Good night, Dr. Muhammad, and see you soon.
See you. Bye bye.
Bye.
Well, it seems to be strange because it says 40 minutes and Zoom is very generous. Thank you, Zoom.